Hello, my name is Aaron, your local realtor in Northern California. Today is June 5th, and I just wanted to take a minute to show you some of these stats. This is actually big news in the real estate business. So look at this. The beginning of this year, January, the number of homes for sale was about 1,600. So keep in mind this is for Northern California, roughly, just most of Northern California, and it has shot up. There's almost double, about 80% more houses on the market. So normally, when you, for all intents and purposes, double the supply, what's going to happen to the price? It's going to come down, right? This is just law of supply and demand. That's pretty basic. Except, here's what I want to show you. There's a little anomaly. Whoa, look at this. Since January, we've actually increased prices. Right, we're now up to $600 a square foot when we were at, let's just say 510, 520. So that's going to be an 18% increase roughly. So what have we done? We now have 80% more houses with, let's just say, a 20% increase in price. Whoa, wait a second, what happened to supply and demand? Look, the number of houses on the market, or the days on the market for these houses, is also decreased. That's really interesting. So, number of houses going up, the price of the house is going up, and they're getting bought quicker. So no wonder people are selling their houses. They hear from the neighbor, I got a high price, and I sold it quickly. So if you're looking to sell your house, now is a great time. From these stats, you're going to get a high price. I was just looking at a lot of things in San Francisco, basically $1,000 a square foot, 800 for something on the low, 1,200 on the high. And then you go towards Marin, and there's still some above, but it's going to be more like $800 a square foot. And then as you come north, right, then you're going to come into Santa Rosa, Napa, Sonoma County, and that's where things are going to be more like $600 a square foot. So that's really, the market is just tearing through these houses. Okay, average price and for sale price. So look at this. People aren't listing. In the beginning of the year, it was rock bottom. People were like, just get it done. I don't want my house anymore. Let's sell it for whatever reason. And now people said, no, wait a second. There's people who have cash still. So everybody was strapped right at the end of that last year. Could be taxes. There's definitely cyclical aspects to this. But now it's just shot up. And if you see, let's just kind of crunch these numbers for a second. So that's going to be 900. What I was saying, $900 price per square foot. Keep in mind this is all of Northern California. And it shot back up to 1,100. So that's actually a pretty good increase. Great time to sell your house. Just absolutely wonderful time. Let's just go peek at this. Months of inventory, 2.4 months. So we've been steadily climbing on these houses despite the fact that they've been sold quicker. So we've definitely got some action in the market. What's causing this action? I'm not entirely sure. Sometimes there can be cyclical things, like here's the current mortgage rates. These current rates, if you can see, I'm not sure if we can go back a little more. No, this particular graph isn't showing us, but January, February, March, we've basically had the same interest rates for the last couple of months. And what's happening? Lots of action. One would assume that if we keep interest rates the same, the number of houses would be sort of the same, the price would be sort of the same, how fast they're moving, all of those types of things. But the reality is that flat interest rate has actually allowed people to make projections into the future. See, people are really worried that the interest rates were going to go up and down and then way, way, way up. The first time, well, not the first time, but back in the 70s with Paul Volcker, when interest rates went to 20%, what actually happened is interest rates shot up to around 10%, and then they dropped way down, and then they shot way, way, way up again. So this break right there, people have been expecting the interest rates to come way up again for a number of reasons. If you listen to Peter Zeihan, for example, he talks about the reindustrialization and the onshoring of American manufacturing. So there has been an exodus out of manufacturing in China for a number of reasons. For example, COVID had the supply chain crunch where we realized that actually moving things to American shipping containers from China had a lot of problems. The other one is literally just wages. So we have pumped about $20-30 trillion worth of manufacturing base into China. And one of the greatest economic miracles in the last century has actually occurred there. They've roughly 15 times their worker income, which means they get to buy houses, they get to do all that stuff. But as a consequence, it's not that cheap anymore to hire people to build the things that we need. So I know this is a little beyond your standard real estate, but these are the factors that help understand, well, if interest rates and everything is staying the same, what's going on? Why are we seeing such a massive flux in the market? So basically, according to Peter's theory, we are onshoring a lot of that, which is actually ultimately cheaper. Mathematically, supposedly, it's cheaper to rebuild a factory here. So with some of the tensions from China, it's actually advantageous for us to rebuild those factories here. Well, $20-30 trillion worth of factories that have to be built and retooled in America. I know some of that's going to Mexico, India, other places, but even just a chunk of that. So the Build Back Better was, you're going to have to forgive me, a few trillion. It wasn't 10 trillion, it wasn't 15 trillion, it wasn't 20 trillion. So when we're onshoring, even if we're onshoring, let's say $5 or $10 trillion worth of industrial manufacturing, that's going to be hugely inflationary. So people can know this, and this might not be why the average person is buying. But for example, if you're an institution and you think that inflation is going to continue to rise because of an onshoring of our manufacturing base, then you would think, oh great, I can buy houses now and avoid that higher interest later. So one little secret about houses is that owning a house in an inflationary time is actually advantageous. The spread between the two of those are called a delta. So just real quick, let's say you buy your house, just real round number, $1 million, and payments on it are going to be $5,000 a month. Well, let's say you can rent it out for exactly $5,000 a month and you make $0. Well, as inflation hits 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, hopefully not 20%, what's actually going to happen is the amount that you can charge for rent will go up, but your mortgage will stay the same. So that difference, in 2 years, landlords are allowed to raise the rent 10% a year. So that's going to be $500 a year, and that's compounding. So that means you could raise it $550 the next year, and then $555 the next year. So within just a few years, I'm not saying the economy and the renters will support this, but theoretically you could rent it out for $7,000 when your mortgage is only $5,000. So that can just be one of the factors that drives institutional buyers, for example, to purchase a lot of homes even though interest rates are flat. So it has a lot to do with looking into the future and forward projections and all that. So I just wanted to give you a little update on the state of the market right now. And honestly, I'm a little confused about why it's going up so much. You could say institutions, they might be responsible for 20 or 30% of home buying, depending on your area, but there's a lot of houses in Northern California. So that leads me to believe that there's going to be some other factors. For example, the stock market's been kind of topping a little bit, getting a little choppy and wobbly out there. Sometimes people say, I'm taking out $1 million and going to buy a home. So it's fun to be a real estate agent and try to figure out these factors because that'll help determine where the market's going. So I hope this helped you just understand a little bit about where we are in the market. The short of it is, great time to list. All right. If you have any more questions or you'd like to book a one-on-one call to hear about how to buy or list your home, all my contact information is always below. Thank you much.